Welcome, Read 516. This is week 7. I would like to congratulate you. You guys have made it midway through the semester, and I know that it hasn't been easy and there's been a lot of work, and you guys are working super hard. So that's why I think you deserve a big congratulations. The end is near, I promise. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and we all will get through it. Okay, so let's go over those upcoming assignments. You have your readings this week. You have to read the QRI 5, which is really important because it's going to offer some really good information on how to analyze the results. We have 2 articles. I'm Not Stupid, How Assessment Drives Inappropriate or Appropriate Reading Instruction. Our second article is Behind Test Scores, What Struggling Readers Really Need. So you're going to find out that these 2 articles are very similar, but they do offer some really good information about fluency, word recognition, comprehension, and I bet that you can probably relate to some of the students that they do a profile on in here. Our assignments this week, there are a few, but please do not get overwhelmed. We have our WAPR number 5. I'm pretty sure you guys are getting used to writing those, so I think that will not be a problem for you. We have our diagnostic report, which I hope you've already started. Please do not be overwhelmed by this because you are using your WAPRs as a resource. You're getting your data and you're getting a lot of your analysis of all the assessments. Please, as a reminder, you are not to just simply cut and paste from your WAPR because there may be some technical information that would be challenging for a parent to understand. And if you do use technical information, make sure you provide an example for the parent. Okay, we do have a participation activity. It's a little bit different this time. You're going to be using a Google Doc to input student data, and I'll go into that a little bit later, and there will be a bonus lecture on exactly how to do that. And then you're going to mentally start prepping for your new student. Also, please note as a reminder that late assignments will be reduced by 1 grade and participation activities are not accepted late. Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss that participation activity. It is due Wednesday, October 22nd, so you are getting more time to complete this assignment. So what exactly is it? Well, you are inputting student data while it's still fresh in your head into a spreadsheet. This is for our RTI project that is at the end of the semester. So I found that it'd be easier to do it now because you're still in student mode and all the data will be in front of you. How are you going to do this? Well, there's going to be a link to the Google Doc, and then you are going to input it there and the data will save automatically. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, so looking forward into your first session with your second student, it's going to be similar to how you started with your first student. You're going to do an interest inventory, you're going to do a motivation to read profile, except you're going to want to think about the student depending on their age and what's appropriate to ask them. You are going to start off right off the bat with a QRI word list. So as soon as you find the grade level of your student, you're going to want to start 2 grade levels below. And the parent interview and survey. So being that you've already done some of these assessments or these inventories, I'm pretty sure that you're going to be more comfortable doing it this time. And also with the parent interview, you might kind of know what questions you want to ask, what questions you don't want to ask. And I also want you to think about what was successful in your first session or what was unsuccessful and what other things you want to try again. Okay, so this should be, I think, a breeze for you. And also going over here, again, you can choose any effective assessment from your folder and just make sure that it is appropriate for your student's age. Okay, so for this lecture this week, we're going to be going over the articles that you are to read. We're going to discuss the results, the strengths, and the needs of these student profiles. All right, so our objective this session is to explain various reading profiles using measures of decoding, fluency, and comprehension. All right, so we're going to dive into the article, I'm Not Stupid. All right, so bad idea. Here we go. Using state test scores to make decisions for intervention and remediation. Good idea. Using diagnostics to gather more information about the student, then making intervention decisions. So I would like you to think about how your school chooses students for different programs. Do they use a high stakes measure? Do they use one assessment? Those are some things to think about. So go ahead and think about that for a minute. All right, well, that wasn't exactly a minute, but I know that as we're transitioning into the Smarter Balance assessment, previously some schools highly relied on the CSTs to do student grouping and to do intervention groups. However, it's not really a good idea because it doesn't really target the skills that they need to work on. And that's mostly what the article is about, that I'm Not Stupid. It's about a study about a teacher who noticed that his students were grouped, but it wasn't an appropriate group because there was different skills that each student needed to work on. Okay, so the researchers, conducted 5 diagnostic assessments on 4 students. QRI was one of them. Students were all below grade level. However, none of them were missing phonics or decoding skills. Oops, let me go back. So I think that this is something that we need to think about as well as educators, is that just because they are scoring below grade level does not necessarily mean they need practice with phonics and decoding skills. Okay, so the implications for this is don't treat literacy as hierarchy of skills where you immediately turn to phonics and phonemic awareness when students are underperforming. You can't have a one-size-fits-all approach. So like I said in the previous slide, we do not just want to immediately make a generalization about a group of students and saying, okay, well, if they're having trouble with this, then they need phonics. Okay, we need to investigate. We need to dig deeper. It says you need a process for determining a student needs, aka a clinical approach. So kind of what we're doing exactly, we're doing a clinical approach to diagnosing reading difficulties. Okay, so here's the 5-step process that it lays nicely for you. Okay, we're number 1. We're going to use a baseline assessment to determine who is below grade level. Conduct a series of reading assessments, including an IRI, which is an informal reading inventory, to determine individual needs. Group students according to results. Have students set literacy goals and include them in monitoring their growth. And involve all teachers in steps 2 through 4. So looking back up here, the baseline assessment. So what's your baseline? I know several school districts have some kind of universal screening method, and then from there they identify students. However, when we identify students, we don't just want to group them into one chunk. We need to do a battery of assessments to determine individual needs. And then we group them according to the needs. We set goals because we want the students to be involved and we want them to monitor their growth. So there's more of a buy-in when we have the students knowing what they are working towards and knowing their progress along the way. And then as always, we want to involve the teachers in these steps. I'm sure this kind of sounds familiar, like the RTI approach. Okay, so on our second article, which was very similar to I'm Not Stupid article, the What Struggling Readers Really Need. Okay, here they completed an in-depth analysis of 108 fifth graders that scored below proficient on grade 4 state test. Okay, so as a teacher, I'm going to pretend that I'm a teacher that doesn't know much. Immediately, I'm going to say, okay, these students need to be grouped and they need to be in an intervention that focuses on reading fluency. Okay, well, that may not be the case. Some of them might be fluent readers, but just might have issues with comprehension. Or a student might not be a fluent reader, but maybe has strong comprehension. Okay, so we need to dig deeper. Okay, so what they found was that all students fit one of 6 profiles based on strengths and challenges in areas of fluency, word recognition, and comprehension. And I'm giving you a very abbreviated summary of the article, so please make sure you do read it to have a thorough understanding of what I'm talking about. Okay, so the first profile was the automatic word callers. And these are the students that decode words quickly and accurately, but fail to mean for meaning. So they lack comprehension. So maybe you've ever had a student that can read pretty quickly, but when you were to ask them comprehension questions, maybe they really didn't understand. So this would be your automatic word callers. These students would benefit from comprehension instruction, modeling, think alouds of key strategies, and self-monitoring strategies. So we need to teach them that they need to read for meaning. And these students also might possibly be reading too fast, so fast that they can't really attend to meaning. And so they also need to understand that reading rates can vary depending on the demands of the text. So I know that I tend to read, when I'm reading for pleasure, like a narrative story, I tend to read quicker as opposed to when I'm reading like a research article. If I'm reading some kind of expository text, I slow down my reading. So these are some examples of what you can do for your student who is an automatic word caller. Okay, the second group was struggling word callers. And these were students that struggle with word identification and have minimal word attack strategies while reading connected text. So what I mean by reading connected text is that perhaps maybe they did well on a phrase word list. However, when it was put into context, they really struggled with different types of words, maybe multisyllabic, and the reason they couldn't decode these words is because they had very minimal word attack strategies. Okay, so these type of readers would benefit from teacher or peer read alouds, a lot of experience with independent reading at their level, small group instructions, and activities that focus on academic language. And then also with self-monitoring and fix-it strategies. So what I mean by self-monitoring and fix-it strategies is as they're reading, they're attending, they're like asking themselves questions like, okay, do I understand what I'm reading? If they don't, they know that they can possibly reread, use visual clues if there was any. So again, they're using these fix-it strategies when they're not understanding the text. Third was the word stumbler, and these were students that had some substantial difficulty with word identification, but still have strong comprehension, which sounds very interesting. So their reading is slow and labored, but attempts to read for meaning. Okay, so these type of students need systematic instruction in word identification. And they're beyond the early stages of reading, but would benefit from decoding skills. So what I mean by beyond the early stages of reading, these type of students, even though they had difficulty with, I need to stop right now. I'll continue in a minute.